I know I've been making a hell of a lot of One Piece content lately because there's just so much to talk about with this series. When people like myself talk about how masterful, how genius Oda's writing of this masterpiece of an adventure story is, I don't think the average person understands. I really don't. The amount of comments I see in different videos, people saying, "Oh, y'all dick riding, y'all thinking too deeply. It's not that serious. It's this, that." They don't understand, right? And with all the videos that I've done in recent weeks and months, you know, Luffy is a god, literally. Usopp's a demigod. Zoro's an Asura. Videos such as Dragon, the symbol that he is, being, symbol for primal freedom, that he doesn't even really belong in the series of One Piece, and it makes you question, like, his very existence in the world of One Piece makes you ask so many questions on a very deep level. Even until recently, video about Admiral Kizaru Borsalino, you know, the fact that another just stroke of genius by Oda's writing. It's masterful writing. And when you understand everything and what Borsalino represents with balance and more, it just is like, damn, I never even Kizaru fans don't even look at it like that, right? And even just most recent video where I talk about how the Yonko system was perfect and Oda took his time for 25 years. He's been crafting to where now, after literally 25 years, 1,053 chapters. This is some shit that you only see with like Hajime no Ippo and a few other series have done this. To where it's like, damn, everything's come together. The Baki series has done this. Again, Hajime no Ippo, a few series have done this. Where it's like, wow, after all this time, we're at this point of culmination. It's like if you go back and watch Arlong Park to now we're here. Remember those legends, and now we're here. It's mind blowing when you just sit back and look at it, and it's like as long as the series and as much time, it feels like it hasn't even been that long. You know what I mean? What's good, y'all? You Dub back here again here in 2022. Let's get it. Let's talk about big news Morgans. As KOL would say, Big Bird, the Birdman himself. The power of Big News Morgans, one of the most influential characters, one of the greatest meta critiques I have ever seen. I have ever seen. Let me reiterate, I read so many comics. There's plenty of other series, there's a lot of anime and manga, there's a lot of things with literature. You can go into comedy, you can go into movies, TV shows. Big News Morgans is one of the greatest meta commentaries in existence. True story. I am not bullshitting y'all when I say that. The power of the news. All right. The World Economic Times literally being able to sway the world based on information alone. Sure, he's making bank and he has a monopoly. We'll get into all the facets of it. But let's just start there with the news. The power of the news. We see it in our world. You can say maybe Oda had thoughts of it a while ago, but this is late game edition. It just shows it. Now, it was the news that declared Roger the Pirate King. Goldie Roger went from Gold Roger to Goldie Roger. It was the news. It was the news that detailed Luffy to be the fifth emperor. It's the news that talks about the Yonko system. The news. Not the world government, not the Gorosei, not Imusama, not the Marines, not Marine HQ, not Navy HQ. No. Now, they determine the Shichibukai, but when it comes to the Yonko, when it comes to the infamy of pirates, sure, they talk about, sure, the Marines control the bounties. But when it comes to people's perception, and watch the video of O'Hara, shout out to O'Hara, talking about Buggy being the only other one to be able to manipulate the news media, right? The way that he did. Scratchman Apu seems like he's going to be in the journalist game. Absalom, before he got whacked, was in the journalism game, it seems like, right? Big News Morgan's talked about the incorruptibility of journalism, the power of the news, the power of information. Knowledge is power. The power of perception. Oda's been playing with this sub theme throughout the entirety of One Piece, especially for about the last 15 or so years, especially in the New World. And it's even impacted the fandom. I talked about that in that Yonko video I just recently did. How people's perceptions of what the Yonko actually is versus the reality of the Yonko. That's why people are like, well, Big Mom, she can't be a Yonko. She's in. That doesn't matter. That's not what the Yonko is about. Perception versus reality. I know BDA Law, shout out to Brago, did a video, a phenomenal video like months ago that talked about perception versus reality. Can have an old philosophical discussion on that one. But here you have one person dictating how the world perceives things. Do you understand what that kind of power is? If not for the military might, it even supersedes the military might. Let me put it this way. It even supersedes the military might of the admirals, of the war machine, of the fleet admiral, of all the military might. The power to sway people in public opinion. Why do you think governments utilize rhetoric and propaganda? Why do you think figures like Adolf Hitler understood this? Joseph Stalin understood this. Various dictators have understood this, utilize it heavily in the 20th century, and it's still utilized heavily in the 21st century. Bombard you with ads, get you to think a certain type of way. Mainstream media and its propaganda. The music industry. Various things, whatever corporate entities, and they literally buy and they own. That's the power of Big News Morgans. And he has a monopoly on this shit with the World Economic Times. A monopoly. His word is gospel. It's so big that even figures like Sakazuki be questioning. Literally, the military questions. It's so big that the goal says, hey, they send Cypher Pole agents. Hey, shout out to Morgans for these hands. He had to knock out a Cypher Pole agent. Even the Gauls say don't have control over this man. Do you understand that kind of power? Very few people have more power than Morgans. The Yonko being some of them, Emu being some of them. Other than them, pretty much nobody has more power in the world besides Morgans. Do you understand? Like, the Shichibukai didn't have that much power. More powerful, you could argue, him and Joker were neck and neck because the power of the underworld. He was considered an underworld king, and he's not even technically underworld, technically. Even the other Yonko were questioning when Luffy was announced the 5th Emperor. Even Dragon himself, revolutionary leader who has, again, more power, more influence at this point. Even Dragon, when the news is out, hey, we got to get on this. Even Dragon. Do you understand what that kind of threat does to the world? That can destabilize entire regimes. That can set up and put down world leaders. That dictates governmental policy. That dictates economic policy. World Economic Times, like the Wall Street Journal, and a few others. Literally, stocks rise and fall on that aspect, if you're talking about our world. That's the power of Big News Morgans. Big News Morgans literally can tank an entire economy if he says it. He can literally cause entire wars if he says it. That's if he used that power that kind of way. He could run the entire world. He could run the entire world. Forget Imu-sama, forget the military, forget the name. He could run the entire world if he so desired. If he had no scruples, no morals. That's the kind of power that Big News Morgans has. The power of the pen. Pen mightier than the sword. Now, it doesn't mean that military don't matter. Morgan's also doesn't have a nation. He's even better than Germa. He's even better than Germa. Than the Vince Smoke family with the way he can travel. He has no home base. You can't put him. Morgan's is the equivalent of like Luffy and Shanks of Roger. Except he can fly. And he got news cool. And he got his influences in the entire world. He ain't just cornered to the new world. He ain't just mainly in the Grand Line. He ain't just in one location. His influence is the entire world, bro. Literally the entire world. And I don't know how the hell them newsbirds, they say they found everybody. They don't care if you in the 40s, in the Arctic, in some lava island, in some island in the middle of nowhere. They find you. They birds find you. You know, Peter Baelish, you think, you can think of Littlefinger in the Game of Thrones. You can think of the Spider Varys in the Game of Thrones. He more powerful than them. He like them on steroids. Use your favorite show, your favorite whatever. I've never seen anything like it. But it just goes to show you. Oda is literally juxtaposing the threat of information in our world. Knowledge is power. Depends on how you can do it. It can be so dangerous or it can be so beneficial. Think about it. Yeah, Luffy was doing all this thing, and the world government, they tried to snuff it out because they have. Again, he should have a much higher bounty. But Morgan said, no, 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 we ain't doing this. They won't even snuff out the picture of Nika that said, no, 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 give me that, no, 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 we not doing this. Change the name, no, 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 we not doing this. No, 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 the story too good. The news, the people need to know. The people's champion. That's Morgan's right there. Shout out to The Rock. Rock, you got some competition with Morgan's. The people's champion. Morgan's is like Barnum and Bailey. Like it's like he's like a circus dude mixed with the news, mixed with a TV personality, mixed with a capitalist. I mean, Oda has this dude everything. He's the modern world in One Piece unleashed. It's amazing, right? It's a masterful symbolism. And who's his competition? See, that's the scary part about it, right? The world believes pretty much anything he writes or allows to be written. That is dangerous. That is scary business. Imagine this. I mean, if you've read 1984 by George Orwell, if you read Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, if you've read Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury, you'll understand the power of information. If you read, you read the X-Men, you know, you read the Watchmen, okay, Rorschach. When Rorschach unleashed that journal, and then we get, with Doomsday Clock and more, and you see what will happen to the world. Rorschach's journal. He intentionally made sure, even after he was dead, that it went to the news. Why? Because when people know. Why do you think the world government, why do you think the Goro say, make sure stuff is hidden? Why do you think the O'Hara type situation happened? Why do you think the great cleansings, the great purgings happening? Why do you think the snuffing out of lights? And it's just funny that Blackbeard Marshall D teaches was considered one of the lights, right? Alongside Vivi, Shirahoshi, and Luffy. So that should just tell you that it means much deeper, right? O'Hara, knowledge is power. They were getting too close to the truth. Can't afford that. Nico Robin, why is Nico Robin given an 80 million berry bounty as a 80 million, not billion, but 80 million berry bounty is the devil child as a child. Why is she being hunted down? Because she has access to knowledge that no one else pretty much can do. No one else can pretty much read in the world. There select few, right? Why Sakazuki take them all out? Because if anybody, it could, if people can read the poneglyphs, they could, the possibilities, right? If people recognize something like Luffy, if people recognize things like Joy Boy, why level sixers are erased from the annals of history. Why events like God's Valley is erased from the annals of history. Why Roxy Zebek is the taboo name not even spoken of. Now that I'm thinking about it, Big News Morgans is going to play a massive role moving forward. And I don't think people were ready. It's like it was questions like how is anybody gonna know? And how does anyone know like how did it get found out that Roger became the Pirate King? How did the news that he reached Laugh Tale even get out there? There's some moles. I think Scratchman on Pooh. People be hating on Scratchman on Pooh. Scratchman on Pooh's gonna play a big role. Scratchman on Pooh, the roar to see Scratchman on Pooh is gonna be a big role moving forward. He's already starting to show. I think O's gonna have this dude play a massive role. He was already the informant. Absalom on steroids. Oh, Caribou. Caribou's got information about Shirahoshi, about Poseidon. Telling me that's not gonna be a massive role? Come on now. Lin Lin with her information network. That was supposed to be so scary, right? She knew somehow she knew about Sanji's connection with the Baratier. Red Leg Zeph and them folk. How? Knowledge is power. Sure, you can have all the military might in the world, but that information, I don't think people quite understand the powder keg that Oda has unleashed. Literally, talking about turning the world upside down. Yeah, we got Dragon, we got Luffy, you got Teach. Everybody's focused on that, right? Hell, you got Buggy now. You got Shake. You got the Yonko, right? You got Dragon, right? But I don't think anybody's paying attention to what Big News Morgans can do. Honestly, Big News Morgans. You talk about Doflamingo. Oh yeah, that's another one. Joker. If Joker spilled the beans to Big News, remember that National Treasure in Holy Land? Remember they were sending the assassin after him? They focus on Luffy. They need to take out Luffy. They need to go ahead and take out Morgans. The world government needs to take out Morgans. So right now you got full like I would say you have what about 7 major threats to the world government regime right now. You got, of course, Luffy, public enemy number 1 at this point. You cannot refute it. Number 2, you got Dragon. Okay, of course, father son, right? Number 3, or if you want to flip flop, you could say Dragon, then Luffy, Dragon. Either one, they 1A and 1B, right? Then you got, I just throw in there the wild card, as a threat. Of course, you can really put Shanks. Shanks the Fulcrum, but Shanks goes down or Shanks moves. Teach, he in there, obviously. Buggy, any of the, pretty much all the Yonko and Dragon, obviously, right? Princess Vivi, Shirahoshi, Momonosuke, but really, above them last 3, right after the Yonko and Dragon, you got Big News Mornings. Massive threat. Massive threat. Forget Kid-in-Law. Even Kaido and Linlin, no. At this point, even Kaido and Linlin, with their empires beginning to crumble. Well, Kaido's pretty much his empire crumbled. Linlin still has hers in tatters, but it's still there, technically. And of course, Joker. Joker, you could say about Joker as well. But Big News Morgans, he's the big player. He's the big wild card. He's the big Joker now. You said Joker, no, he's the big Joker. And Oda, just like with Dragon, just like with Emu, which predicted with Emu that figure, I'm going to keep saying that. Myself and Fire Angel Chris, we predicted. But this dude, Morgans, did anybody see this coming out of there? No. I still remember the Underworld Kings. And I still and we still need to see more of that. And I think you could say maybe Buggy's You know, because people are talking about him, Buggy's taking over for Joker. That would be cool if he's like now the kingpin of crime. Shout out to Wilson Fisk. If he's the kingpin of the underworld, which is why he's Yonko, that would be awesome. But Morgan's, that always, I'm like, the rest of them, I'm like, but Morgan's with the nukes, with the underworld, Morgan's the biggest wild card besides Luffy and Dragon right now. Even Teach isn't as much of a wild card. Yes, he's a schemer. Even Buggy, yes, Buggy's the jester. Shanks is the fulcrum. But the wild card, because Luffy just does shit. All right, like we know that. And Dragon, I mean, he's moving against the Celestial Dragons. Hashtag War on the Celestial Dragons, baby. Shout out to Sabo for saying that. That shit was still, you know, the pivot, the turning point, the most pivotal moment in One Piece. But Morgan's, man, this dude, if the world government is concerned, he need to go. He needs to go. Especially after the stunt he just pulled with Luffy. Morgan's got to go. If I'm the world government, I'm taking him out. I got to focus on Luffy, Dragon, and him. Everybody else, Teach we can deal with. Buggy we can deal with. Shanks, they got a seeming working relationship for now. You know, Hawkeyes don't have a, you know, fleet. We ain't got to worry about him too much. And he was a Shishibukai. Like everybody else we can deal with. But this motherfucker Morgan, man, he gotta go. That's the power of Morgan that no one is talking about. Unexpected Wonder, like, comment, subscribe. Tell me your thoughts on this. What is your thoughts on the character of Morgan's? What are your thoughts on his symbolism, the power of the news, the power of media, the power of information, the power of knowledge? What is your thoughts on even the name of the World Economic Times? And yeah, any other videos, any suggestions, any thoughts on different topics you would like to do, comment down below and let me know. All right, y'all. Have a beautiful day, beautiful night. Peace. Till next time, remember, knowledge is power, and it's vitally important. It's essential on how you use it.